Okay, welcome back to the Rad Hyrox podcast. Today we are by Jane. She is one half of the Erg Army. If you've been following Hyrox, you've probably seen their social media posts and their profile because Jane is popping up all over the place with her hints and tips about the science behind the ergs. She's over in Australia, so it's interesting to hear. We're really interested to hear about Hyrox over there and how that's coming on. And she also raced mixed doubles with Greg from the Rocks Life podcast, and she's off to the world champs with him. So keen to hear more about that, Jane. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we wanted to start from the beginning. As a child growing up, you've always been sporty, or how did you get into sport? And then how did you kind of start to focus on ergs and your love for ergs?
So random. It's definitely very random. I was never a rower, so even my family are like, when did this happen? But I growing up, I was like super active, very, very high energy. And so I just played absolutely everything I possibly could get my hands on. So basketball was my main sport. I played a lot of netball. So those people that are in the Commonwealth know what netball is. When I'm in America, I'm like trying to explain it to people. And lots of tennis, did everything, soccer, softball, footy, like just whatever I could do. I just was very, very active. I'm really drawn to ball sports. The like passion for fitness came when I was a teenager and I started to get really self-conscious of my body. And I grew up in the 90s. So like the whole era of like heroin chic, where there was like this pressure on women, not so much to be strong like there is now. It was more to be really skinny. And I definitely fell for that as a late teen. And I got like obsessed with that kind of world. And through that obsession, I realized that there was such a positive angle to fitness and such an empowering movement. And so I decided to like shift the direction of my life so that I could be, I guess you'd say, like one of those voices for this like positive way that fitness can impact particularly women's lives. So I started working in fitness in 2001, so a really, really, really long time ago. And I really knew from then, when I was quite young, that I wanted to change the message that women were getting about what their bodies needed to look like by focusing on what their bodies could do. And I guess that kind of like happened through that, relationship of being really sporty and active and strong and being celebrated for what my body could do and celebrating what my body could do, to then shifting into this world where women were just what their body looked like. And I was like, let's shift that, let's change that. And the fast forward, 20 years now, and it's like that's still really the message that I'm trying to create. And I got really into the ergs because I realized I owned a gym, and I realized that none of us knew how to use them. Like they were in every single gym, and everyone was just like, get on and go and put the dabber on a 10 and just go. And I realized that so many people were miserable on them. And I was like, maybe this is like a really awesome opportunity to show people that they can feel great on these things and they can use them correctly. So I went through a really long period, probably 10 years, of learning how to master them, and particularly the rower. And I sold my gym and decided to focus really wholly on the ergs. And so it never came from like I was a rower, I was a skier, I love these things. It was more, this is a gap in people's experience in fitness, and this is definitely something that I can use as a tool to show people what they're capable of.
Oh, that's incredible. That's such a cool way to look at it. And I like what you're saying about like female empowerment and looking at what your body can do instead of like how you should look. And I think with the movement with CrossFit and now with Hyrox and the strong girl movement, it's really nice to see that that's coming through. But it's crazy that it started so long ago. So did you train originally as a personal trainer, or were you just in a gym, or
so I trained originally as an aerobics instructor. So I decided, I was still in high school, so I was in what we call year 11, so it's like second last year of high school. And I was like, I want to be an aerobics instructor. I love aerobics. Like this is like really the era where group training looked like aerobics. And so I often tell people that I was named after Jane Fonda. Like I was part of the original aerobics movement, and people are like, okay. And I'm like, I actually wasn't. Like I was actually named after Jane Austen. My mum loved Jane Austen.
Really?
But so but I became an aerobics instructor, and then I was like, okay, I want to be a PT. And this is like in the era where like CrossFit wasn't a thing yet. Like none of these things that we see now existed, but it was that like gym one-on-one personal training. And group training was aerobics. And I spent 10 years doing that, like a really long time doing that and building up my own business. And then it was from there that I became more into like what they named, in 2010 functional cross training. So it was like in the real beginning of CrossFit, and it's like that's the direction I then went and opened a functional cross training gym, one that has monkey bars and sleds and all the Hyrox stuff, but it was like 12 years ago. So so I've been in the industry for a really long time. I call myself a dinosaur.
No, it's quite cool to see the change, isn't it, through the time.
Yeah.
Did you have those whole Reebok high tops like for step aerobics? Like they're back in now, but
I know I saw some in a shop yesterday and I was like, I need them. Like they are so cool. I never had them when they were originally cool, so I feel like I need to have them now.
Now is the time.
Totally.
So when did you first hear about Hyrox? Like, did you do CrossFit before, or?
I've dabbled in CrossFit. I have always been a runner. So I'd say that I'd always been a runner, and I've done a lot of Spartan races. And I really like CrossFit. I think it's awesome, but I'm definitely like, I'm an endurance athlete. Like I love conditioning and I love endurance. And so when I heard about Hyrox, it was actually when I was over in England running workshops, and it was 2 years ago. And this group wrote to me and they were like, we're competing at Hyrox. We absolutely love it. Like we want to get some tips on the ergs. And I was like, what is Hyrox? And I'm like Googling it, like spelling it like HIGH, like rocks. And I was like, can't find anything. Like, what is this? Like,
everyone called it Hydrox for a bit, didn't they?
Yes. And I was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. It's literally running with all the things I like. Like in the gym. Like I'm like, I love this stuff. Like and I thought, oh my God, this is such a good opportunity for Erg Army, because like when we're teaching the ergs, one of the real like challenges for us is a lot of people, because our market is the gyms. Like it's not an individual training at home on an erg. It's people that go to group training and they use the ergs as part of their training. And it's like, so for a lot of people, they're like, but isn't the point just to get tired when I go to the gym? Like no one kind of had these performance goals. And now all of a sudden Hyrox has come along and it's like 1,000 meters top and tailed with a whole bunch of running and a lot of other things. And it's like suddenly efficiency matters. So it's like, it's been a huge opportunity for us, but I heard about it 2 years ago and then I started looking into it and I was like, when's it coming to Australia? And I was like so excited. And then it came to Australia last year, and it's gone absolutely crazy over here. Like everybody in every single gym is talking about Hyrox all the time.
Wow. And how many races have there been in Australia or are planned? Like,
so there were 2 last year. So there was Melbourne and Sydney last year. This year we've got Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Perth, and there's a 5th one.
Oh wow.
That is going to be announced publicly soon, and it is going to be like at a really cool like international venue. Like it's like an outdoor, it's going to be an outdoor one, and it's like I actually don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it. But here I am.
Hey, we'll hold up on this one until you tell us you can say, and we'll put it out once you know you've got the go ahead.
I'm pretty sure they'd be pretty happy with any hype around it. Like I think that's like part of it. But but it's really exciting. Like it's like like they want to keep increasing how many races there are and how many people do it, so it's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear. It's so like, I mean, in the UK it's just gone mental. Like it really has like taken off. It's impossible to like book onto a race now. It's crazy, which is amazing, but it's like really cool to hear it's the same in like other countries and on the other side of the world. And I think it just kind of shows as well how inclusive Hyrox is. Like so many people can get involved, and it's just something for everyone, which is really, really nice.
Completely agree.
Okay, so we've got to get into some tips here then. Like what we all want to know is like, how do we make our ski and our row the most efficient? Like, because it is, like you say, it's an endurance like event. You're out there for like over an hour really, and you want to be able to pace yourself and use efficiency. And you get to, in Hyrox, if people haven't raced it yet or don't know, you get to change the damper once, but then once you've moved it, that's it, it's got to stick. So you got to give us some advice here.
Definitely. Well, it's really funny. I'm like, so when Greg and I competed, he, as you guys said, he runs a podcast, and I'd been on his podcast, and we talked all about like race strategy, and it's so cool now having done a race, and like we went like, in my head it was way faster than I expected. I was thinking we'd do like an hour 20 minutes. We did an hour and 4 minutes, and we're very in sync. We worked really
huge difference.
Yeah. Right? And it was all because of the ergs, you see. But it was so funny because we were running along and we discussed race strategy, and I'd always said to him, you should, on the rower, do 2 intervals each. And he was like, Jane, you're not going to like it, but I think we should just do 1 500-meter each. And I was like, okay, you're the expert, like you're 100% the expert in this, let's just do it. Anyway, it was a great decision. So I will definitely touch on strategy, but I think that the mistake people are making preparing for their first Hyrox is they're not testing what a 1,000-meter ski and a 1,000-meter row feels like, having previously run and running after, because the ergs on their own, like really racing just to be fast on an erg for a one and done race is very different to preparing on an erg to be running a whole 8 kilometers and pushing that bloody sled. It's a completely different beast. It's really important to train with the same conditions. So I think that the mistake most people are making is they're setting their damper too high. And we talk about damper setting, literally, I would say 99% of my life is spent talking to people about damper setting, because it's like this science that people can't understand fully straight away, so they just don't agree with it. And it's like, I guess if you've ever had a flat earth theorist on this podcast,
exactly.
I assume you probably haven't.
Absolutely not, but
yeah. And they're like, but I can't see the curvature of the earth. And it's like, well, just because you can't see the curvature of the earth does not mean that the earth is flat. But that's kind of how I feel sometimes. Yeah. So at the damper setting, so basically at every single Hyrox I have the damper preset. And it's really funny because I don't know where the methodology came for having it preset at this arbitrary number, which I think could be 7, and then in some races it's 6. So it's like, for women it's 6, men it's 7. So there's this whole kind of like misinterpretation then that certain people who are in certain races need the damper leaning higher or leaning lower, and it literally does not work like that. So all the damper setting does is adjust how much air gets into the flywheel, but the greatest impact of how much air gets into the flywheel is the athlete. So regardless of like whether it's set at a 10 or a 1, the athlete still has the capacity to reach the same splits regardless. It's just that the wheel will spin for longer when the damper is set lower than it will when it's set higher. So what the athlete needs to do when the damper is set higher is take more strokes, do more work for the same result. So if the athlete can actually get the same amount of power into the flywheel with it set on a 2 than they can at a 10, on a 2 they can probably sit at around 28 strokes per minute. On a 10 they'd have to sit on 40 strokes per minute. So in a sport like Hyrox, doing less reps to get the same result is the most intelligent way to approach the race. But the other variable that comes into this is actually the psychology variable, where our ego is attached to the number on the damper. And it's like, people can't help but think that they are working harder, they are a better athlete if they have the damper set higher. And it would kind of be like setting the damper higher, and I talk about high being 5 and above. It's like having a damper set there is kind of like running a Hyrox race in wet shoes. It's like you've carried more load for the entire race, so your legs are going to feel more tired. And maybe you could be that, or having a go ruck. Like, it's like you're then like that person that can be like, I ran with all this load, but you're going to be slower. So it's like, it's with the ergs, a rower would never get on and put their damper over a 5 for their 1,000-meter when they've got to do a whole hour's long endurance race. They just wouldn't, because they'd be like, well, I can take 28 strokes per minute for 1,000 meters, or I can take 40 strokes per minute for 1,000 meters. So I know what I'm going to choose, because at the end of that, that's 48 reps less that I get to do, which means I've got you know, 15% more energy to go straight back out onto that run.
God, that's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like, it makes a lot of sense when you explain it like that. Like, it does make a lot of sense, but I can see why you're saying like ego's attached to it, because people do just think, oh, whack it up to 10 and I'm working harder and I'm gonna like blast it and I'm gonna win or whatever. Like, that's just kind of what like some people's mentality is. You know, they just, people want to, I don't know, feel like they are working harder and suffering more, and the higher the number, the better it is, don't they?
Totally. And then it's like the more jacked they are. Like, I still remember when I was learning about it, and I was a whack it up to 10 every single time. And I was a part of this group in Salt Lake City called Jim Jones, and they were an offshoot of CrossFit, a very high conditioning version of CrossFit. And they train a lot of, like, they do like a lot of like movie training. So they do like the Wonder Woman and like all these kinds of like movie athletes, I guess you'd say. And it was very much the mentality there that you had to have it on a 10. If you didn't have it on a 10, you were cheating. And I was 100% a part of that school of thought. That we used to have to test our 2K. So like we'd have to do a 2K row, and females had to do it in under 8 minutes and men had to do it in under 7 minutes. And I remember when I was training for this, I went and joined a rowing club, and I was like, no, I put it at a 10. And they were like, why? And like, they kept asking me why, like, why do you do that? And I was like, because it's harder. And they're like, well, don't you want to get your 2K in the least amount of time? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, so do you want to be more tired and slower, or would you like to be less tired and faster, or the same amount of tired and faster? And I was like, faster. Like, I was like, faster. And so it's like straight away it was like, let's train at that lower damper, because instead of getting a 7:45 for your 2K, you can get a 7:07 for your 2K. And yeah, you're still rolling on the ground laughing, but you're 40 seconds faster, basically. And laughing, sorry, rolling around the ground dying. But that's what we want at the end of Hyrox. Like, we're going to be tired. We're going to be tired no matter what. We might as well be tired in 5 minutes faster than tired in 5 minutes slower.
So if I was going to go to the gym tomorrow, based on what you just said, and I'm going to set my damper, like, what's the best session to do for me now, based on that information? Is it to go and try like a K at 1? Damper setting 1 and try and do 28 SPM, or where do I start if
I love this. Okay, yeah, because sorry, I just went blah information.
No, I love it, but I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go and put my damper on 1 and do like 24 SPM, and I'm gonna get like a mega PB. But like
totally. So it's really interesting to approach this. You've got to understand the history of the equipment. So like the rower was created in the 70s, and by Concept 2 for rowers. And so the extremities, like the 10 and the 1, were only really exist in order to create the accuracy at those middle ranges. So it's like the 10 and the 1 were kind of never meant to be used. They were just to make sure the airflow in those middle ranges was more accurate, because what they wanted to do with the rowing machine was mimic the feeling of resistance in the water at the tempo in which the boat needs to move. So basically, when you're in a boat, your oar is skimming the top of the water. Okay, it's under the water, but it's skimming the top, because then the boat glides across the water. As you dig your oar further into the water, it's a heavier damper, so it's a higher damper setting. So a 10 would be like digging the oar all the way down. The boat would actually end up moving slower, but you would get more tired. So a rower would never do that. They want to skim the surface so that the drag in the boat is, you know, like very little, and the boat's moving really, really fast. Kind of like swimming. You're a swimmer. And so the 10 is like putting that oar really far into the water. A 1 is basically like missing the water almost, and so you want it kind of at a 3 or a 4. So sorry, that got super random there. But if you're using the erg, the first thing I want you to look at, and this is the secret we give away in our workshops, but I want you to look at the ski erg, the flywheel of the ski erg, and then I want you to look at the flywheel of the rower. And you're going to notice on the ski erg that there's a big plastic disc on the front of the ski erg. And that's Concept 2 saying to you that you don't need as much airflow here as you think that you do, because the mistake that happened is they released the rower into the rowing community, and no one ever put it over a 4, because they don't want to dig their oar all the way down into the water. They want to mimic exactly what they need to do on race day so they can get faster in the water, doing it well. And so no one ever put it in a 10 in the rowing community. And then the fitness community got their hands on the rower, and everybody, bang, backed up to a 10. And so Concept 2 sat there and they were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, why are people doing this? This is
They are
like
ruining our
not
lives.
literally.
Yeah.
And like concept two were like, we don't want necessarily this general fitness market to have their hands on it, because it's like they're brutalizing
Yeah.
the like integrity of the machine. And so like concept two are kind of like, what the hell do we do here? And like it is a really difficult thing to educate people on, because 10 feels harder. So if it feels harder and potentially you get your fastest split for 1 second, you think that's a better spot to have it.
Yeah,
But it's
100%.
like we are creating all of this data, like we are creating all of this belief system around data that is 1 second and a feeling, rather than any real science or any real data. And so they released the ski erg, and everyone did the exact same thing, put it to a 10, and everyone's getting golfer's elbow, strained biceps, misery, like just misery. People get on that ski erg, put it to a 10, and they're like, this feels terrible. So concept two, we're like, okay, well, what do we do to make people enjoy this more? And they were like, well, what if we put a cover on it? And now 10 doesn't exist. We've closed off literally 50% of the air vents. And so now the most air capacity you can get in is the equivalent of a 6 on the rower. And so it's like 10 no longer even exists on the ski. So it says 10 and you move your damper up, but there's this massive plastic disc on there, and 0% of people have ever even noticed it, which I just think is like amazing. It's like harm minimization at its absolute best. Like, let's not educate people that, you know, junk food and soft drink is bad for them. Let's just like tax it. And then when they create that harm, it's so it's kind of the same methodology. Yeah.
Like sort the problem out at source rather than try and chase your tail.
Exactly. So it's like, as soon as I tell people that in a workshop, people are like, my life's been a lie. Like, I can't believe that 10 doesn't exist. Oh my God, what else doesn't exist? Like Santa, are you real?
I mean, we've been like, recently we've been like we've gone to loads of different gyms, but I know we've definitely done one workout at a gym and it was like smack it up to 10. Like it had to be on 10 for whatever that workout was. And I still think, like, just going back to what you said at the beginning, the whole females have it on a 6 and guys have it on a 7, like that is exactly what I got taught. Like, and I've been doing PT for years. Like, I don't know, that is ingrained in the like to try and undo this. And I think it's incredible that you picked up on it in the first place, and that you are here to tell, like, to let people know. Because like, even like we were both discussing it and we were like, we can't wait to just find out more, like just to find out more about the ergs, because they just became like, jump on the erg, do whatever you need to do. And even with Hyrox, you're like, okay, jump on and get that kilometer done as fast as possible, and what's the best way and which is the best. You just, it's so much more complex. But like you said, you could save yourself so much time and energy, which in Hyrox like crosses over to like your race time. Or so it's incredible.
Totally, exactly. And it's like, there is a part of me like that would just love there to be a simple answer. Like, it's like, this is it, and like something I didn't mention in kind of the intro is I used to be a lawyer. So I used to work as a lawyer. And so like, just a small thing. And like, fitness was always kind of like, I went through a period where fitness was like my side project. But something I love about law is it's like, there's this definiteness. Like, it's like, once you analyze what the issue is and you find the key legal issue, you apply the law. Like, and that's how it is. And with the damper setting, there is a law to it. But it's like, the history is that people have misinterpreted the law so much that the belief system of, you know, social conditioning, I guess you'd say, is what people believe is the law. Like, it's like that's, and so like the science now feels like it's like the belief system. Like, it's wrong, and it's like it's actually just how physics works. Like, this is not my opinion. Like, if this was my opinion, I would have stopped talking about it a really long time ago. And given up and just let people put it wherever they want. But I'm like, no, this is literally the science. Like, it's like I don't care enough to have an opinion this strong.
For sure.
I've got other stuff to think about. But like, it's so basically the best thing you can do at Hyrox is understand how the machine works. And the fact that Concept 2 have placed that cover on there is a really loud message that we don't need to have it at this high damper. It doesn't need to feel heavy in our arms. Like, it's a variable resistance machine. That's why the Concept 2 equipment is absolutely just the like premier equipment, because it's like, it's not simple. Like, it's not a fixed gear. It's not a bike. Like, and when people explain it like a bike gear, they're actually wrong. It's not a bike gear. Okay, yes, it's adjustable, but it's based off the airflow. So all that does is just open up the vent a little bit or close off the vent. And the way that it actually works is the more air that gets in there, so the higher you have that damper set, the more open it is, the more air that gets in there. It doesn't just stimulate forward motion of the flywheel, it actually creates a slowing force. So the air's coming in on all sides of the wheel, which means it comes to a faster deceleration. So the higher the damper is set, the faster the rate of deceleration of the flywheel, which means that to apply force at the optimal point in time, you need to create a faster stroke rate, do more work. So the whole thing about men and women, and I went on a bit of a rant, it must have been about 6 months ago on my Instagram about, like, the machine doesn't know if you're a man or a woman. It just doesn't. It knows airflow.
Yeah.
And it's like, so this idea of like us like having
Females
this, it's
do
like
this.
it doesn't know. Exactly. And so then it leans more into, oh, but men are stronger. And it's like, yeah, but the machine is the same. It's just responding to airflow, and it's not necessarily it's not a smart move to put the stronger athlete at a higher damper, because it means that's that strong athlete. If this idea is that men are stronger, which, like, let's not even get into this, but like,
yeah, that's for another day. Yeah.
3 hours later, if the idea is that the stronger athlete needs the higher damper setting, well, then we're also asking the stronger athlete to move at a faster tempo, which actually would lead to lean into more of a lighter athlete, because they can recover faster. So it's just completely been misinterpreted and then misdiagnosed. And it's like, the real truth of the matter is, every single person that gets on the erg that bothers to put effort into their technique will create a better result for less energy with a damper under a 5.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool to hear.
It's crazy. It's so, I just think you can, like, when you think about it, Hyrox, like, is a lot of it is a running race. You know, you do 8K of running, like, it's like it's a runner's game. But if you then think about the rest of the exercises, like, 2 of them are on ergs, like that's a big chunk. And if you're pulling, like, you know, I don't know, doing 4 minutes roughly on the ski and 4 minutes on the row, it's 8 minutes of your race time. Like, it's actually quite a big chunk when you block it into sections. So if you can be more efficient in that, to then, like, because I always think, I mean, we race as a double, so it's, I guess, a slightly different tactic maybe to doing it as a, like, solo. But I feel like everyone I speak to, when the ski's first, doing run, ski, run is just brutal. Like, your heart rate spikes. You're just like, what is going on? This is horrific. Like, everything hurts. And then you go into the sleds. So if you can make your life, like, as efficient as possible at the beginning with the ski, like, you'd be stupid not to, really. Like,
absolutely. And like with the ski, like, so let's look at, like, because that's exactly it. It's like, what you do on the ski is going to cost you the rest of your race. Like, it's like, if you make a mistake on the ski and you absolutely go for it, your next run is going to be slower, and then you're going into the sleds, and those sleds might as well be glued to the ground. Like, it's like, you need to have energy and like gusto when you get to those sleds. So the best thing you can actually do on the ski is let the flywheel accumulate the meters for you. Like, why would you take more strokes to do work that you can do in less work? Like, that wheel is designed to spin. It's like pushing a big ball. And one of the demos we use at a workshop is we get like a dead ball and a wall ball. And like, the dead ball weighs, let's say, 10 kilos. The wall ball weighs 6 kilos. You apply the exact same amount of force on them, and the dead ball will come to a faster stop. That's your damper, let's say 8, and then the other ones are 4. And it's like, yes, over a short period of time, you end up moving more load of that dead ball, but for more work. And so Hyrox is choose the one that you apply force, the wheel spins, then you apply force again, rather than having to go bang, 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 bang to move the dead ball along. And that's what's going to save you the energy. That's what's going to make sure that you go out on that second run, and it's probably going to be one of your fastest. And you get to the sled, you can stack, you know, your joints and move it without it being like push, push, push. So it's kind of like if you look at the sled, you're not gonna be like 1, 2, like, you're gonna like get into a rhythm, so the sled glides. Like, it's like there would be no reason. And it would be kind of like if you had the option, actually, I don't even want to, I was going to say, if you had the option to load more weight onto the sled, like, you just wouldn't choose it. Like, it's like, you'd be like, why would I do this right now? let me just make
Yeah.
this a little bit harder and slower for myself. But
Why
I
would I
did a
do
heavier
that?
weight on the sledge. Yeah,
But
exactly.
but then if
Exactly.
everyone had the option to do that, I bet you like 50% of the people psychologically would do that, or for
Yeah.
bravado, because everybody else is doing it, and it's like
Yeah.
they haven't done it the
For
hardest if they
bravado.
don't put it on there. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
so funny
Exactly. And that's
psychology.
what it is. It's that bravado. Like it's like, but did you see I had it on a 10?
Yeah,
Like it is
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, you're awesome and
Good
an
one.
idiot. Like
But then the more, like, if you can, like, you're doing a really good job of it now, of spreading the word, but the more you spread the word, it
yeah,
becomes like, what are you doing? Why have you got it on a 10? Get it on a 4. You obviously don't
totally.
know what you do. And then it's changing that perception, and it's changing that message, isn't it? Which is
Yeah,
exactly what needs to happen.
absolutely.
And then,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
moving away from the damper, on the ski, what about
10 hours later.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I feel like we could keep going, but like, how about just something, because I think it was some of the guys that run another podcast, oh God, what is it, the Rock Zone podcast, they did a little like
Oh my
montage
God.
of people on
They
the
are so
on
funny.
yeah, they did it on the ski erg, and there was loads of
Oh
different
my
techniques.
God.
I've seen yours, like,
Hmm.
obviously, like with the extension and pulling straight down, but there's obviously like
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways to do
Yeah.
it. What's your like expert advice for someone to try and nail the technique on the ski?
Great question. So, like, simplicity is best. Like, it's the path of least resistance. So, like, if you think about like a barbell movement, a dumbbell movement, a kettlebell movement, like, there's no need to like create extra kind of bells and whistles. Like, it's like if you think about a snatch or a clean with a barbell, you are looking for a straight path. Like,
Yeah,
you're looking to create extension, get underneath the bar. Like, just like, you see it done poorly when the barbell bounces out in front, or it doesn't travel in this straight path. And the ski erg's exactly the same. So, and same as the rower. So, like, again, the history is really important, because when the ski erg was created, it was created very specifically for the Nordic skiing community. It was never created to be a general like GPP, general physical preparedness tool. It kind of accidentally became popular, and
I mean,
it's
like,
a
concept
huge.
2 have accidentally become really, really like done really well,
They
haven't they?
are
Like, what the
They
hell?
are like the unicorn of business. Like, they are literally that group that doesn't put any money into marketing or advertising or anything. Like, they literally have a product that sells itself. And
Mental.
it's amazing. They are such a cool organization. They're so much smaller than people think. Like, they're in Vermont, they're like out in the mountains, they go skiing, like, like, they're not like crazy, like, business oriented people. Like, they're real kind of like Americans would say, like a mom and pop like setup. Like, it's really family oriented, and literally their product is so good that we cannot get enough of it. And
Crazy.
it's so unusual in like capitalism to have a company that is literally just creating what they love to create
Mm.
and not really. I think it's just amazing. But their ski erg literally became popular without them ever really intending it to. And now, 99.9% of ski erg sales are to us, the GPP community. And like, Nordic skiers are like, well, I actually kind of prefer skiing, so I'm just going to
Yeah,
ski.
I'm
And
just gonna go actually do it instead of suffer on this machine.
totally, exactly. And so it's like, it's kind of like what a treadmill is, like a traditional treadmill is to a runner. It's a training tool to create a pattern, but it's not how they learn to get better at running. And it's kind of like that for the Nordic skiing community. So you'll see a rollover of ski technique that has been learned from the Nordic skiing community, but it doesn't actually make us faster necessarily on the ski erg. It would make you better as a Nordic skier, but a Nordic skier needs to dig their poles into the ground. So this hands to pockets that you see, this technique that you see, is traditional Nordic skiing. That's what you need to do with your poles to Nordic ski. But the way that the machine works, the way that the cable works, is as soon as you deviate from a vertical path, it slows it down. So it's like flicking your hands back, pulling them back behind you, creating this like kind of J, actually is going to slow you down. And it's the equivalent of with a barbell, like it bouncing out in front of you. It just becomes a slower path. And the rower is the same. So if you think about a rower on a rowing machine, they're going to create a tap down so that their oar comes up out of water. But really good rowers know that when they're on an erg, they need to have a perfectly straight line, because as soon as you deviate from a perfectly straight line with that handle, it creates a kink in the chain and it slows it down. So one of the key things that you can do when you're on an erg, in Hyrox or not, is create the path of least resistance, create a straight handle path. So what we teach on the ski erg is it's a diagonal path from a top position of being triple extension, soft elbows, and I'll talk about that in a second, lats engaged, core on, getting up really tall, not to create more range, but to create a position of greater power. So when I'm open at the ankles, when I'm open at the knees, open at the hips and soft in the elbows, my lats are on and my body is ready to drop with gravity and take the full force with me onto those handles. And on the rower, it's like what I'm always trying to do is get extension. So fully extend through the legs, lean back with the body and keep that handle in a perfectly straight line. The mistake a lot of people make on the ski erg is they assume that height matters, and it really doesn't matter to the extent that people think it does. People just love finding this limiting belief that they can attach themselves to of why they're not awesome. And the reason they're not awesome is because they're not doing the work. Someone isn't awesome on the rower or ski erg because they're tall. Someone's awesome on the rower because they have put in the work. And it's like the elite 15, like they're fast because they've probably trained their entire life to be fast. And this sport came along and matched their training for their entire life. They're not just tall or short or wide or, you know, like whatever they are, they're actually the hardest workers, like, and they have been. And it's like, there is, when you get to that elite 15, there is a body type. You're going to see stuff like that happen that leans towards certain successes, but that doesn't mean that that can't actually be changed. That like, particularly in a sport like Hyrox, it's like, it is, you have to be a versatile athlete. So it's like what we're seeing right now isn't this, like people shouldn't use that as a limiting belief. It's like, if they're built differently to how they are, they can still be really, really awesome.
Yeah,
Love that. That's so good.
Totally
I think
agree.
even if you look at like say the women's elite 15 and like the last one in Washington, like there are like Lauren Weeks isn't that tall, and then the some of the German girls
amazing.
like who are quite
And
tall,
so
like
tall.
everyone's like different sizes to be fair, but they're all there like within minutes of each other. So like it does show that it's not, I mean, even like Jade Skillen, who's now like she qualified for the elite 15 and she's tiny, but she is a ninja. And like
a rocket.
So if she's ninja on it, then you can't say, oh well, I'm not tall and I'm not, you know.
No.
That's
people say
such
it to me,
an awesome.
It's so awesome. And like I'm 173 centimeters, so I'm like literally like the median height, like in a room pretty much. And it's like sometimes people will be like, oh, you're just good at this because you're tall. And I'm like, firstly, not that tall. Secondly, please do not discredit
Give me some credit.
Like, totally. I'm like, I have put in hours and days and years to get good at this. Like it's like, but it is kind of nice not being like I'm not any kind of unusual build. Like it's not like I walk into the room and I'm 6 foot or I'm like super jacked. I'm just like really average, really normal, which is great. Like I think that it would be a more powerful message I could, you know, put across if I was like 150 centimeters. Like it would be really, really awesome. But I'm not. But it's like I think that the mistake a lot of people make, particularly with the ski erg, is they try and overcomplicate it. It's like we want to utilize gravity, we want to utilize downward force, and we want to come up against gravity as few times as possible for as great a benefit as possible. And so when people are on there and their stroke rate's like 60, I'm like, that's 60 reps. Like it's almost 60 burpees. Like, and if you think about your burpee broad jump, it's distance based. So it's like if you can jump further each time, you do less down and up. And and the ski erg's exactly the same. If you can get further per stroke, you get to go down and come back up less times. You're going to use less energy.
True. And
the rower is a little bit different because it's a horizontal stroke, but it's like you do less leg drives. Your legs are going to be fresher for the run. So it's like if you can get further per leg drive, less, you know, exhaustion on your legs, you get straight back out and off you go. So it's like, and then that feeds into the whole, and that's why where you set your damper, and that's why it's really interesting. None of this stuff is in isolation. Your technique fits in with your understanding of damper setting, fits in with your endurance, it fits in with your power. So like this whole simplistic idea that if you're a girl or if you're a boy, you set your damper somewhere, and it's like, no. What do you actually want to achieve from this work? Like that's the question to ask. Like not like gender, like it's what do you want to achieve from what you're doing? And let's approach it in that way.
So would you say, is this like, I guess too generic a question, but would you have like an optimum for a race like Hyrox? Would you say there's an optimum stroke rate to aim for, like for people to try and find, or is that too dependent on?
I absolutely love this. It is very dependent on the athlete and their size, like their height, like how long does it actually take? How much space are they covering? But I think that the absolute best thing you can do is test it. Like it's like one of the activities we do is like a shortened version. We do a minute on, 30 seconds off, and we do 5 rounds and we adjust the damper each time. And what we're trying to do is see how many meters we can get at each damper setting. And I give people the option to, they only hit the even numbers with the damper setting. And it's like, they'll do like, they can either go 10 down to 2. So their minute 1 is on a 10, or they can go 2 up to 10. And like I always teach people, I always recommend start at the 2, because when you get to finish with the 10, you can utilize that air capacity because you've got all this rest after. Whereas if you start at the 10, it creates a hangover fatigue. So what I try and do for people is I try and teach them the relationship between stroke rate and damper setting. So as I said before, the machine needs to have a high stroke rate if it's got a high damper setting for you to benefit from the capacity of air. You don't have to do that. You can just go slow, but it's like a complete dead stop deadlift versus a touch and go. It's like the momentum is going to help. So like if you start on your 10 for a minute and you say, and I say to you, okay, I want your stroke rate to stay at 35 on the rower. You could do that. Whereas as soon as you start to get tired, you're going to want to drop off in that stroke rate, which means the air that you're getting into the machine is less, which means you're not benefiting from the 10. So it kind of is a zero-sum game. So I would be saying to people that the best thing that they can do, and people always hate this because I never give them like a definite, like put your damper to a 2 and have 26 strokes per minute. I just kind of don't do that because I think that you can learn and retain and apply learning so much better when you come to the answer yourself. I can give you all the recommendations in the world, but it's like if you go out and you go, okay, I'm going to test my 1,000 meter on the ski erg on a 2, and I'm going to see where my stroke rate falls in my perception of where the optimal point is on the flywheel. And you'll find it because there is a point where you hit the flywheel and it feels like such little effort, but such great benefit. And then there's other times you get there too fast and it's like you can't actually catch it, or you are stopped halfway up because you can feel the wheel coming to a stop. So it's like learning it yourself means that you can retain the information so much better. But the best thing I would actually do is measure the data, like do a drill like that, a minute on, 30 seconds off. You'll probably end up doing over a kilometer. So you'll get some really good training. You'll see what it feels like at each damper setting. You'll see what the fatigue feels like at each damper setting. Because one of the biggest issues with a higher damper isn't the fatigue during. You've got all the adrenaline, you've got everything going, and you're just getting the job done and you're not even thinking about it. It's when you go out onto that run that things start to like blow up. Like it's like you're 30 to 40 seconds out on that run and it's like your triceps are absolutely, burning and you're trying to shake them out. Your quads feel like they're going to blow up. Like you can't get enough air in. And it's like you want to get out onto that run and be focused on the run. You don't want to have a hangover from the ski or the row. So it's like learning to create race conditions in your training by using the variability of the machine. What stroke rate suits me best? What damper suits me best? Like, how did I get off the machine and run my fastest after? What were the conditions that I created for that? And like for me on a ski erg, every single time it's going to be a damper 2 or 3. Every single time my stroke rate's going to be like 34 to 38, and it's like I can be an absolute bullet on that next run. And maybe I'm 5 to 10 seconds slower than the person next to me there, but I'm going to make up for that. Like on every other obstacle after that. And chances are you actually aren't going to be slower. It's playing the long game. Yeah,
it does. You don't have to win every station. You don't have to be the fastest.
No.
It's the accumulative like
fatigue.
Totally. So how you can maintain the pace, the consistency, or even being able to keep pushing towards the end, like we say, is better than blowing up at the start. I wanted to touch on you said that you did your mixed doubles and you split the row. You just did one change.
Yeah, it was so funny. So also super funny what happened with this. So we got to the ski erg and we got to the ski erg first, so we were down the very end, which I was really happy about. And one thing that we're very passionate about at Erg Army is erg etiquette. So it's like we always teach people, if they're in a relay, they have to hand off the handles because otherwise it's very rude. Like it's a bit like, and like we do not want And our community, it's kind of like you're walking through a door and you can see there's someone right behind you, and you don't hold the
Just
door
let
open
it go.
for them. Instead, you just kind of, yeah. And so, like, this whole rule of Hyrox, I'm not gonna lie, it's gotten to the core of who I am. Like, this like rule where you have to put the handles back up on the ski erg. I'm just like, I'm about to go on like a rampage on Instagram with it, because I'm just like, I want that rule changed. I just think it is just the height of rudeness.
So rude.
It's so rude. So I want to make it that we can hand off, but because that is not the case right now on the ski erg, I always teach people, if you're in a partnership and you don't know if your partner is like the exact same power, fitness, everything as you, so you're like basically twins, okay, you want to divide work based off time, because then it's an equalizer. So like, I didn't know, Greg and I aren't like, he's a very fast runner. I literally had no idea what his capacity was on anything. Like, he and I decided the night before, instead of us both doing individual races, that we'd race as a double. So like, just in a random conversation, let's just do this. And both of us had the most absolutely crazy couple of days. I'd been working as an assistant race director at Chicago, and so the day before, I was like doing all the stuff, and I didn't get home till 2:30 in the morning. Was back there at like 6:30 a.m. Had eaten like a bagel and peanut butter, drank like 3 coffees before racing, and he literally hadn't even stopped to go to the toilet, let alone eat, because he'd been commentating all morning. So neither of us had at any kind of successful lead into this. And so I had no idea what he was capable of. So on the ski, I was like, let's do 30 seconds each. Let's just get on, do 30 seconds each till we hit the 1,000 meters. And that was such a good strategy, because I think we did it in 3 minutes 30 or thereabouts. So it's like, I got on the ski first and I got off the ski first. Whereas every other interval I started, he finished, pretty much. Like, we kind of figured that out really quickly, that worked well for us. So the ski, we did 30-30s, and we did it in about 3 minutes 30, I'm pretty sure. And it was, the reason I always recommend time is you have a really consistent rest period. So when people do distance, firstly, as you get more tired, that distance takes you longer, which means that the rest period feels kind of stressful for the other athlete. So if you're in doubles, the rest period is like it's open-ended. It could be anything. So we did that. I thought that was actually really, really good. And I think that worked really well. But you've also got the strategy now of changeovers. So letting go of the handles, like, you guys talked about the Rock Zone podcast before, and the videos about people and the timing of how long changeovers actually take you. It's huge. But I would not recommend for a doubles a 500 meter effort each on the ski. That will just blow you to complete pieces.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing you can learn how to do is exactly what gives you the best result. Like, what actually gives you the best result.
Train together and
exactly.
practice, like you said, become like, put the time in and put the work in.
Totally. And the other thing you've got to think about is, even though a changeover costs you time, the wheel is spinning and accumulating meters when you're not on it. So it's like, us getting off, and I'm going to say the ski erg might take 2.5 seconds. Us getting off, that wheel was still spinning and accumulating meters. So like, if in my 30 seconds I was hitting 150, that meterage was at 170 before Greg actually started. So it's like, it's not actually lost time. Whereas the sled, done, dead, not moving, not riding.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Not even when like my full strength is behind it.
Try and give it a quick shove to see if it'll carry on gliding.
We all wish.
I mean,
exactly.
We usually ask people for their 3 top tips for Hyrox, but I think you've given about like 50, so I don't think we need to touch on that. But like, one thing I'd love to know, just from your background and your racing, not so much specifically about the ergs, but Hyrox, physical or mental? Like, what's your thoughts on the mental?
Okay, so I would usually say that it's like 90% mental, 10% physical, like with any athletic endeavor. I am a real, like, I feel a lot of pressure, like performance anxiety pressure. And so something I think I really liked about Hyrox is no one had any expectations of me Greg was just like, we're going out for a beautiful run. Like no one there knew that I could run, knew that I could do anything. So they knew I could do ergs. So like I was a bit nervous about that. But with everything else, it was like just like a pleasant surprise to everybody. So it's like I would have said on the day, it was pretty much, I would say, the opposite for me. It was 90% physical, 10% mental. But I think if I had people that cared about me there, I'd probably flip it because I'd have this pressure of expectation on myself. I think that I think it's very, 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 very mental and very, very physical. I don't know what the split would be, but I think that the mistake most people are making is they are just focusing on their training being physical. And one of the things that will set you apart is really trying to get your mental game like up. So understand how important mental fortitude is. Like for me, as a part of normal everyday training, mental fortitude is a really important part about it. Like I really have to understand that on certain days I'm creating controlled suffering. So when that suffering kind of comes, whether it's in life or it's in an event, it's like I know I have the resilience to cope with it. And I think what a lot of people do is they keep their training to, PG-13, like they're too polite with themselves. And so when they get to race day, it's like that's what hooks them. So I think that a really important thing that people can actually do with their training, and athletes do this, have done this forever, like actual professional athletes, is that you have to suffer in order to like succeed. And you have to create that controlled suffering in your training. Like it has to get uncomfortable. Like and discomfort can come in physicality or mental. Like it might be really uncomfortable for somebody who's had their damper at an 8 or a 10 to put it down to a 2 and go, okay, I'm slower to start with now. And that slowness is gonna like hurt my ego, but from there I can actually get so much faster. So the discomfort and suffering doesn't actually have to be rolling around the ground so exhausted. That's building physical capacity. It's like the discomfort and suffering could be like, admitting potentially you're wrong, trying something different and getting so much better. Like that's pretty insecure and scary.
Yeah, for sure. Answer. And I think like even just what you said about the like all the information you've given about the ergs, if anyone went away now, I mean, I know like we probably think it for the next race. I'm like, if we put the effort in and follow what you've just said in your advice, actually you might go in with more confidence and like the mental game when you come to those ergs and you've done the work, you're like, well, I actually understand these pieces of equipment now. We could actually like even if you go into that run and you've set your damper like lower than a 10, like you're down to like a 4 or a 5 and you feel like, well, Jane said my legs aren't going to feel so bad, and like mentally you might not, you might feel better coming out of it, even if you may, I don't know, even if you didn't, just because you've not put that damper at a 10. Like
totally. And like it was so good for me, like personally, like the ski being the first obstacle feels awesome for me. Like I was just like, I know exactly how to do this. I'm so confident on it. And it's like I want other people to feel the same. Like it's like I want them to feel like they can come in from a run, get straight on the ski, hold the pace that they need to be able to. And it's like, and learn to breathe on it. I'm asked that all the time. It's like, learn to breathe. I knew I could calm my heart rate down on the ski. And I'm so excited to do an individual race because it's like I've been, creating simulations in my training, but it's a completely different beast. Like it's like I knew I could get on and do 30 seconds. Whereas now it's like I have to get on and do a whole kilometer. And it's like, can I actually keep myself that calm doing that? So it is like, it's such a cool sport. Like and I love, you guys touched on it before, but I love the inclusivity of it. Like I love that there's people that are like there just to finish it. And there's people that are there to do something together with their family, their friends, like, and then there's people that are literally rockets. They're like human rockets, like, and it's amazing. And we're all there together. And it doesn't matter how fast or slow you are. It matters that you are willing to, set a goal, do the work towards it, see what you can actually do and show up on the day and do something that like success isn't guaranteed. Like it's like, and that is what people get to take out into their real life. They get to succeed in this and they get to finish it. And then it shows them what they can do in their life.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. And see what their body can do. So you touched on it there. What, you've got some races coming up. You're signed up for a solo, are you?
Yeah, so I'm doing solo pro in London. And I really don't want to do the weights. I'm not gonna lie, they are very heavy. Like I'm like a 4 kilo
Why did he not keep
ball
moving?
seems so much better. I know, it's so rude. And like one thing, the hardest obstacle I found was sled pull. And like I was watching everybody like the whole day and their technique on it, and I was like, surely you could just pull it. Like, and this is literally what people's perception of the ergs is before I teach stuff. Really, you just get on, whack it to a 10 and go. And I was like, I get out there and it's like Greg's like talking to me while he's doing it and like explaining to me. And then I literally get it and I do everything he says and the sled doesn't move. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, obviously this is a technique issue, right? And a strength issue. Like, it's like, this isn't just like technique. There's really something missing from my like toolkit here. And it was so funny though. Like, I was laughing while I was doing it because I'm like, I'm being coached on how to do an obstacle while I'm in an obstacle and working for Hyrox. Like, I'm like, this
that's so
bad.
good.
I need to get better at this.
We know what you're going to be practicing in the next few weeks.
Seriously. I am going to become the sled pull queen.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so we're going to finish off on cheeky insights. So we've got 8 questions for you. I don't think we've touched on anything just yet. So kick off with the most controversial question that seems to be going about, and that is, what shoes do you race Hyrox in?
And people are so funny with footwear. Like, I get the same thing with rowing and skiing, like which are the best shoes for it, and I'm like, you can't be that person at the gym that's changing their shoes midway through a workout. Look, I'm but maybe you can be, right? I would I think a running shoe, like an actual runner, like I think that's the best, because running is like, it's a running race like that has obstacles in it, and I think that you're better off doing the obstacles in a running shoe than you are running in a non-running shoe. So I would always opt. So if anybody asks me, I say a running shoe. If I'm teaching you just the rower, I'd probably say like a Metcon / Nano. But like a flat shoe is beautiful for rowing, but I would definitely say a running shoe.
For Hyrox, okay, cool. What you've only raced one so far. The question's what venue is your favorite Hyrox venue? So I guess you'll see in London whether you prefer.
Totally. I know, exactly. I wish I'd been to more. I love watching them on like socials. Like, I get really excited. I thought the venue in Chicago was literally like so dreamy. It was like down on a pier, and it's like, Chicago is beautiful, and it was like the most sunny day. Like, it was magnificent. I loved it, but like, I literally can't give you a good answer. What are your favorites? What's your favorite venue?
We just raced
Manchester.
We did London and Manchester, didn't we? But Manchester's like
in doubles together.
We did it, and it was Worlds, wasn't it? And it was quite a cool like place to, like, it was a really cool atmosphere, but the building was really cool. So I think that's why that was ours. That's been a few people, so I think it's just like the building was just like incredible, the light all coming in, and just had a really good hype around it that weekend. So I think that's probably why. But I think this question will be more interesting in a few years when people have done more and more and gone to a few different places. But it's interesting to hear like where people have raced and what they think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on to stations, what's your what's your favorite Hyrox station? I mean, I'm guessing it's gonna be an Erg, but you can surprise us.
Well, I think the one that I was the most shocked by was the burpee broad jump. Like, I would tell you, I do not like burpees. Like, I am not like I saw the 24.1 CrossFit workout come out, and I was like, absolutely not. There is zero chance I'm doing that workout. Like, I was like, I am a massive supporter of CrossFit and CrossFitters, but I was like, I don't need to do 6 million burpees over
a lot of burpees.
But I love that station. And something I really loved about racing with Greg is like, I've definitely done partner workouts with guys before, and they want to do all the work, and they are kind of like, you know, sit down there, little girl. And like even one team relay I was in once for a ski erg, and it was this man actually said to me, I was in a team with all men. I was like telling them what strategy we should do, and he goes, "Shh, you're just here to give us rest." And I was like,
Ooh. I bet he whacked the
"Dude,
damper up to a 10, didn't he?
yes, he did." And he also laid down in the middle of the relay. And I went over to him and I go, "Do you need more rest?" I was like, "I'm still going, waiting for
Oh
him to take
my
over." Anyway,
God.
it was so funny. But Greg was like the opposite of that. Greg was just like, you know, we're equals, and if there's something you're better at or there's something I'm better at, let's like go with that as the race kind of went. And like as I've said before, I was not the winner on the sled pulls, and so poor Greg definitely took absolutely more of the load of that. But the burpee broad jumps, it's like it turns out I could jump quite far, and I was like, this makes me feel really good about
That's
myself.
so
So I think
good.
the biggest surprise, yeah, I actually really liked that station. The rower will always be my favorite, like just in everything. But I really love the burpee broad jumps.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could do well, you've done a doubles, but if you could do another doubles with anyone in the world, like doesn't have to be an athlete or a Hyrox person, who would it be?
I read this question and I was trying to think about who it would be. I don't know if you guys have had Zara on the podcast.
Oh,
Zara, she's so nice. You got to get
not
her
yet,
on.
but
She's
like, yeah.
absolutely. She
She
is
just did it
like
with
one of the friendliest.
Kate,
Kate,
did she? Yeah, and
Yeah.
just
yeah,
smashed the
and they
world
were
record. So yeah, I mean
rockets.
that's quite
They
a
were,
good choice, isn't it? She'd be all right at the sled pull.
yeah, she would be an abs, and she's just so nice. Like I can't imagine her being like, "You're terrible, move faster." Um, and I'm really like, you know, I'm really about celebrating strong women. Like I think men are awesome, go men. But I like love seeing fast, strong women like crush things. So I absolutely want to race with a really strong female. I think she'd be awesome. But then I am turning 40 this year, so there's a part of me that doesn't want to be dragged into her age category. So I kind of want to like.
So need to go for someone a bit older. Strategy.
Someone a bit older. I gotta get a granny on board. So I definitely would probably also try and look for somebody that's a little bit older as well. But I would definitely. It's really funny. People always ask Em and I, my partner Em, if we do it together, and I'm like, we would not do well because we'd be like Amy's literally 10 times stronger than me. So just like, but I'm the runner. So it's like we
Yeah.
would just be completely mismatched. And I think about that with people with their partners all the time. I'm like, you are brave. Like I just think there is like definitely like gold
Full on
in going with
domestic.
somebody. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's really powerful to go with someone you don't know well enough. So you're both still really polite with each other.
That's so good.
Okay, next one. Do you fuel for Hyrox? And if so, what fuel do you take and when do you take it during the race?
This is a great question. I am not so I've done a bunch of marathons and half marathons, and I'd probably say like I'm a big runner, and I absolutely will fuel really appropriately for that. My one Hyrox race, I did not fuel appropriately at all. So I'm really trying to train right now to eat well before. So I for a Hyrox for me, I won't have anything during.
Okay.
It'll just be water. Like that's kind of because I really wanted to try and get sub an hour. I haven't really tried. All my kind of athletic endeavors, apart from when I was really young, are, you know, over an hour and 20 minutes. So it's like a little bit of a different beast. But
Yeah.
no, I'm not for this, it would just be eating really well beforehand, hydrating really well beforehand. My kind of pre-race food is always some kind of bread. So that's why I had a bagel and peanut butter, usually with
Yeah.
banana and like cinnamon.
Can't
That's
Yeah,
kind of
really go
like
nice.
wrong with
real
that, can you?
basic. No, exactly. So yeah, really basic, and then black coffee. So that's kind of like what I've always done before like an important event. So I think, again, it's that mental side of things too. It's that consistency that gives me confidence in it. But yeah, but I'm definitely open to learning more about how to fuel properly for a race like this. Like that wouldn't be my area of expertise.
Yeah, no, it's good to like, you know, your body as well.
Mhm.
Like it's good if you've done like endurance events and other races, like if you know what works for you before an event, like stick with that, you know, like everyone's
Mhm.
different in that
Mhm.
sense, and it's good once you find what's good for you. Okay,
Exactly.
what is your favorite training session for Hyrox? Do you have, it doesn't have to be like super specific, or it can be, but like a format or like a long conditioning piece that you like or anything like that?
My favorite, and this is a really great way for people to learn about damper setting and their rowing, is a workout called Can't versus Won't. And so it's like, will it end when I can't do anymore, or will it end when I won't do anymore? Is kind of like
Oh,
the question.
Brutal.
Yeah. I
okay,
think the
want to know
CrossFit
more.
renamed it. Yeah. So CrossFit, I think, call something similar like death by. So what this would be is like on the ski erg, so a great way, or on the rower, you could choose one or the other, or it could be both. People, you choose a starting meterage. So you have to program it in. So it's programmed in the monitor. So select workout, custom list, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So it's 30-30s. And it's basically you'll choose a meterage. So I'll start at 125 meters. And in the first 30 seconds, I have to hit 125 meters on the dot. Let's say I hit exactly 125 meters. I take my 30 seconds rest. Next round, I have to hit 126, then 127, then 128. Now, if I go over my meterage, and this is why it's such a good Hyrox specific drill, if I come out of the gates too fast, that becomes my baseline and I have to get one more than that. So let's say I come out of the gates and my first 30 seconds, I get 140 meters. Suddenly, the next one I have to get 141 and 142. So I'll actually build such great capacity at the pace that I need for the race if I keep a lid on it in the beginning. So it's like a really good
Cool.
Hyrox specific, because if you can get 15 rounds in, which is kind of the goal, you want to get 15 rounds in, suddenly like you're over and above what you need to do for the race. And then it's like you can actually pull it into being even more Hyrox specific by reducing the rest, but still accumulating that same kind of volume. So yeah, so you can do the same thing on the ski erg. You give yourself a start point, but the something that's fundamentally important to this is that it is programmed in. Because if you get the rollover meterage, there's just no accuracy in the data at all. So it's like it has to be programmed in, which is something that most people don't do when they approach the ergs, program the monitor, because it is like it's not like an Apple. It was designed in the 90s, that monitor. So it's like not intuitive at all. But yeah, that would be the workout I would 100% recommend everyone starts adding into their repertoire.
I love
brilliant.
that. Yeah, really good one. We will take note for sure.
Yes.
Okay, next one is, why should someone sign up for their first Hyrox?
Oh my God, because it shows you what you can do. Like it's like it creates like one of the most powerful things about Hyrox is there's a really clear path to where you're going. So you set yourself a date. So it's like you've got a goal, a specific date, and then the event is set in stone. Like the event is what it is. So your training leading up to it can be really specific. So it's like one of the really cool things. I'm a huge believer in James Clear, Atomic Habits. So like, I don't know if you guys have read that book. It's really awesome. But one of the things he talks about is that the behavior change comes through the adoption of habits, not necessarily like that end goal. Like the behavior change through something like the journey of Hyrox comes from the discipline it takes to show up to each day and keep doing the thing. The, you know, congratulations you get to give yourself on the wins you have along the way. It's not just finishing the race, it's doing the work to finish the race. So the magic that you can create in your life from setting yourself a goal that's outside of your comfort zone and showing up and doing that and showing up every single day it's incredible what it creates for your life. So it's like, I couldn't believe at Hyrox, something I just absolutely loved about it is how supportive people were of each other, of complete strangers. And something I love about it as well is it's like, nobody knows when they're a spectator if you're coming first or you're coming last, unless you're in the elite 15, really, because everyone's out on the course and they're doing all the things. So it's like you don't feel like you're a loser if you're coming last, you've really got no idea. You got no idea where you're actually coming. You're just doing your best, and everyone's cheering for you. And it's just like, it was unlike anything else. And it's like, I'd heard so much hype about it, and I was gearing up to come back to Australia to work with Hyrox. I was so excited when I was in Chicago, but no one really prepared me for how absolutely there was this collective strength in the room. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's such a good community, like, and everyone
It really
we've
is.
spoken to so far has said the same.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear. Okay,
Yeah.
last one. I think you've kind of already maybe answered this because you just mentioned Zara, but who would you love to see on our podcast?
Zara.
Yeah.
We will definitely try our best.
She's so nice
to make that one happen, because I feel like that would be a really, really good conversation to have as well. But is there anything else you want to add on? I mean, where can people find you to learn more? Like Instagram, what's the best kind of way for people to follow you?
The other person you should get on is James Kelly, because he's, I think, the fastest Hyrox racer in Australia, and he puts his damper to a 10. And he's a really nice guy, but he's a full damper 10. Yeah, well, actually, no, he's not a CrossFitter. So it was kind of controversial when he finished in Australia. He beat 2 elite CrossFitters, and he yelled out like as he was crossing the finish line, and it was like it was joking, but it was like everyone was like, he was like, "Where's CrossFit now? Where are you, CrossFit?" And like kind of
I thought he
beating
was
his chest a little bit.
Amazing.
Yeah,
so
and he might have done it, but no, he's definitely like a runner obstacle racer. Like, and it's like, and he's just built like. Yeah, he's built like an obstacle racer, but he is such a nice guy, so friendly, but he puts his damper to a 10. And
we need to get him on to answer that question. We need to put him on the spot about why he puts his damper to a 10.
Yes, exactly. It would be so, and he'll be there, so probably like, it feels the best there, and you'll be like,
That's so good. I think we need to add that into our questions, like, and the final insights. The last question needs to be, what do you set your damper to? I know.
100%.
We need to do that.
You actually should. It would be such good market research.
Yeah, we're gonna do it for you. We'll keep a chart.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll get it across.
I can send invites out to my workshops.
We'll be like, you've got some work to do in Ireland. They're all setting their damper to a 10. Canada, they're fine. They're going 5. We'll work it out.
Oh my God, you guys are the bloody best. Where can you find me? The best place to find me is Instagram. So it's Erg Army, like at Erg Army. And we are about to go on a global tour. So we're literally going to be everywhere. So we've got workshops in Australia for the next 3 weeks. So we got like Melbourne, Adelaide, lots in Melbourne. And then we get on a plane and go over to Singapore. And we have a specific Road to Hyrox workshop in Singapore. And so that's a new product we've launched just recently, and it's all about race strategy. So there's and how the ergs fit into race strategy. So that's going to be really cool. And then we go over to Dublin. So and we've actually got some workshops in Ireland, and then we go to London, and then we go to Wales before going to World Champs. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but
cool.
So the best place to find me is Instagram. It's it's unbelievable. It's the calendar. Like I was putting them all in the calendar yesterday, in a row, and I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to adjust to these time zones? This is going to be a lot, but also awesome.
Oh, that's cool. And people can just book onto those, or?
They link, everyone is always welcome. I get some messages from people after workshops, and they're like, oh, I thought it was just the members of that gym. It's everybody is always welcome.
Perfect.
If it is a private event, it doesn't appear on our socials or on our website. We just don't even talk about it. So we do have some private events, but anything that you can see on our social media or on our website, which is just ergarmy.com, are all open to absolutely everybody.
Amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much for
my
sharing
pleasure.
all
Sorry,
your
I talked so
knowledge.
Much.
No, that's amazing. It was really, really good. And hopefully we will see you in London, because I think we'll be down as well. So,
will you guys be racing?
Yeah.
Doubles, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So
how did you guys go in your doubles? Did you crush it?
Yeah, it was really good. Like that was our first one. We were meant to be doing one earlier in this season, but I am recovering from an injury. So yeah, unfortunately I've got a bit of a disc issue in my back, so can't run at the moment, which isn't ideal for Hyrox. But fingers crossed we'll be back to try and beat our time and go for it in London. But if not, we might race it for fun and then try later on in the year when I'm definitely recovered. So yeah, see how it goes.
I love it. Oh, I'm excited to meet you guys in person.
But
yeah, no, it'll be lovely to meet you. I think I've just been sitting here getting really jealous of the sun coming through your window. Oh God, we're in Scotland in the winter and you're like sunned up. Look how good it looks.
I know. It's like it's like 8:30 in the morning and it's 20 degrees. It's like amazing. We just moved back from America. We're in North America, and we were in amongst the ice storms and the snow, and so I am just like taking in any sunshine I can possibly get. I'm like, vitamin D, come at me.
Yeah, fair play.
I can't imagine you guys right now cold.
Yeah, with the fire on. But thank you so much for like making the time difference work and making time for us, and thanks for like everything you're doing, because I think I'm really glad we can try and even spread the word a little bit and get on board and point people in your direction to follow the great work that you've been doing, especially with the ergs and with the females, for getting more females and strong women and trying to change that misconception of strong but skinny, isn't it now?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you guys so much. I've had the best time ever.
Yeah,
thank you. And thanks to everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.